Hi, Queens! I am thrilled to have Victoria Lee, our Miss Chinese Chicago 2022 second princess and talent, and a body positivity content creator here with us today. Victoria, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Lee, as Victoria Ng also mentioned. I was in the 2022 Miss Chinese Chicago pageant, which really jump-started me to loving my body and being a body positive advocate. Online, I am Mid-Size Asian Queen, where I post about my experience as a model, as someone loving her body, and also just sharing about body positivity from an Asian American perspective. And I'm really happy to be here.
Woo! I love it. I love it. So, can you tell us, you grew up curvy and you received a lot of comments from friends, family growing up. What was that like?
For me, it's just a constant reminder. I just remember there's like I just would always think, oh, there's always gonna be something comment about my body. If I go to China, they're always gonna comment that I got fatter, or also it's like I got tanner, etc. Because beauty is also about skin color over there. And I think it just looking back, I think it caused me to be very self-conscious about myself and how I looked and trying to chase compliments versus being more at peace with how I thought about myself. And it was hard growing up in that time period. I just turned 30, so this was the early 2000s where there was no social media. It was just what you saw on TV. And a lot of the people I saw on TV did not look at me at all.
Wow, I can't even imagine like how it felt to receive all these comments, and then on top of that, you also are Asian, and I am sure that added some layer of complexity on top of everything else. How was that?
So that was more of like growing up. It's like, what did I see in person versus what did I see in media? And in person, I grew up in childhood when I was younger, I was in the suburbs of New Jersey. And so there were Asian people there, but it's not like it's a ton of Asian people when you're living in a city. And so I just didn't really see people who looked like me. And if there were other Asian kids, like I was always the larger one, even if it was other Asian kids or not. And growing up watching what's on TV, if you watch Disney Channel, like there was only Brenda Song for someone who was Asian. And there just weren't that many people who even looked like me. And I think there's that stereotype that Asian women are all thin and slender. And I just really did not fit that stereotype at all, which made me think like, am I not Asian enough? But it was really helpful for me when I moved to New York City to see more Asian people. But even when I saw more Asian people, I still didn't feel that represented. And I still felt like I was the curvier one of all the Asians still.
So when you kind of realize that you weren't really seeing a lot of yourself in other people, and then at the same time that you were receiving all of these comments that were just based on your body, um, combining those two identities, I assume that it led you to feel definitely like a certain way about yourself. So how did you end up finding your path to Miss Chinese Chicago and like other opportunities where you've really like blossomed?
Yeah, it's a long process. I remember that maybe it was end of high school or very beginning of college. I found this blog online called Thick Dumpling Skin, and I just remember being so wowed by it because it was a blog where people who were Asian shared about their experience with body image and ideas like thick dumpling skin, you're developing a thick dumpling skin against the comments. But also maybe I don't know, you're like a thicker dumpling. And so it just really helped me to see that there were people who face similar experiences like me. One of the founders, she talked about when she was younger, they would do these crazy weight loss treatment and what was wrapping her in plastic wrap. And I read that thinking, oh my God, that's happened to me before as a way to like try to, take the inches off your waist or something. It was like putting ointment on there and then wrapping yourself in plastic
Oh
wrap.
my
I didn't do
goodness.
that. It was like my mom did that to me. And it was like for her similar, like someone like her parents did that to her. And reading that helped me to feel, oh wow, I'm not alone in this. And then from there, how I got to Miss Chinese Chicago, because then that's about 10 years almost later
Right.
after that, um, was that I was admiring pageants even back in college. And I'd seen a Chinese one in New York City, but I never thought I could do something like that. So I remember seeing their application and they needed photos and I was like, and measurements. I was like, that they definitely will see my stuff and be like, no, to me as an applicant. But when I was 20, I guess I was 28, I saw the posting for Miss Chinese Chicago. And at that time, I saw that there was no age limit because I think for a lot of pageants, I would have aged out. I saw that there was no restriction on that you could not be married. And at that time, no, I still am married, but I was married at that time. And I was really floored that, oh, there's this opportunity for me. And I was thinking, if I don't do this now, when will I ever? I just happen to be in a city. I happen to move to Chicago. There is this opportunity. We were just in the midst of the pandemic, and that really gave me a mentality of if it's not now, then when? So I decided to go for it. And here I am after all of your coaching, Victoria.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, it's so great to hear. And I mean, like, I really want to take a step back for a second because, like you mentioned, there was that 10-year period between when you were kind of figuring out things, like then you found thick duckling to then later on, now you became a contestant with Miss Chinese Chicago. I'm sure a lot happened during that time frame. Like, aside from all the rapping and stuff that you went through, which is crazy when you were a kid, like, what were those 10 years like?
I think a lot of time passed, like not thinking about how to grow my body positive or like self-love for my body. It was more focusing on, okay, now I gone to college, I need to graduate, I need to get a job. I'm trying to figure out adulting. So I didn't really give myself much time to think about it. Yeah, like I think I was more confident in my body and more of like I was experimenting with different fashion styles, but there was still a part of me that was self-conscious that maybe I wouldn't voice out publicly. So there are instances like I remember when we would go travel with my mom and my sister, I would just like cringe with my sister posing for photos. But I think thinking back, it was more of just that I didn't think I could do that, but I wish I could. So the flip side is now I'm modeling and I'm in photo shoots and I'm in fashion shows and feeling a lot more confident and just having exposure to that. Another example where I was still growing into my love for my body was on my wedding day. I think I still felt kind of self-conscious about how I looked, or even at my bachelorette party in Vegas. I look back at some of the photos where, we were just taking photos on our camera. And you can see how a little uncomfortable I am trying to pose for pictures. And I remember afterwards thinking like, oh, you can see my belly rolls, etc. Whereas now I went back to Vegas recently, and the last time I was there was my bachelorette party. So it was really crazy to think about the difference and how much more confident I feel now in my body wearing like, clubbing and bodycon dresses. So it took a long time. And I think it was really just for the first 28 years of my life. It was something always in the back of my head, but I didn't really let myself explore it and try the things that I wanted to do, whether it was pageants or modeling, or even, I guess now I'm an influencer on Instagram. Like I didn't let myself.
It's not a question. Yeah. You are.
Yeah, I am an influencer.
Yeah.
Now it's like crazy to think these are the things that I'm doing. And I just turned 30, and yesterday someone sent me a video of myself at 20 talking to my 30-year-old self because he did this project, and so he was supposed to send it to me when I turned 30, and I completely forgot about the video. And I saw the video and I was like, oh my God, like baby me. I was around 20. I looked so awkward and sounded so awkward because I didn't know what to say to the camera. But at the very end of the video, I said, I wish my 30-year self, maybe you're more confident. And I said something like, I hope when you look back that this isn't the good old years, that there's actually better years to come as well. So I think that came true.
I love that. And also that's so awesome too that the videographer remembered 10 years later to send that to you, and that you were, you always had in your mind that this was what you wanted, and then you manifested it. I mean, you sought out the opportunity. And I also want to pivot back now to Miss Chai Chicago because there is the component of wearing a two-piece bikini that is required. Oh, yeah. And so, like, going into that, knowing that you were going to wear the bikini, how did that feel, and how did you kind of approach that segment of the pageant?
So when I first found out, I remember I had the interview with you, and I was like, hey, so I'm like, I feel like I'm bigger than your other contestants. Like, I just said it very awkward. Like, I was like, hey, I feel like I'm bigger. Like, I'm not going to, I'm not sure how it's going to work out. But by having all of the other contestants really encourage, not just me, but each other, because even though we're all different body shapes and sizes, everyone still felt a bit uncomfortable doing that because you're walking in a bikini on stage with everyone looking at you. It was really helpful to have them encourage me. And also, for me, because when we did the rehearsal, it was in like a dance studio, so there were mirrors. So oftentimes it's like I'm seeing my body, I see it in a mirror, but I'm not really ever seeing it next to someone in my own head.
Oh,
And it kind of
interesting.
was like kind of helpful to be looking in the mirror, and I was like, objectively, I am bigger than the other. I was bigger than the other contestant, but like I wasn't like as big as I thought I was, if that makes sense. And because I could see, we had the mirrors in front of me, like I could objectively see that. I was like, oh, like, you look great still next to everyone. Like in
Yeah.
my head, it's not like I'm standing in a bikini next to other people. I just always saw myself as just looking way worse than them in my head. But by seeing that in the mirror and coming face to face with reality, I was like, oh, no way, I look great. And then to also hear other people's affirmations were really helpful. And that segment actually turned out to be one of the most fun segments, because it was just celebrating our confidence and having this runway that, we can spin and stuff and like act really fun and like just have a lot of fun on stage. It was a really great experience. And I definitely love that you have it as part of the pageant.
Yay! Music to my ears. Seriously. Oh, okay. So there was so much to unpack in what you just said. So first and foremost is that you went in thinking, oh, like you thought that you felt awkward in telling me. I didn't. It didn't come across to me as awkward at all. Like when you told me, I was like, oh, okay. Like you said it very
Oh,
objectively, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Like I guess it is. And then when you talked about like looking at the mirror and then thinking that like literally looking in a mirror is very different than your image in your head of like what it would be like standing next to other people of different sizes, made me like that's an eye opener or mind opener for me, because I never thought that that would be like a thing. And but it totally makes sense when you say it out loud. I'm like, oh yeah, there's so many like images of like body image content where they'll show like what's in your head versus like what's actually someone seeing in the mirror. And so to think that like you're standing next to other contestants, and also the fact that you mentioned, which is so true, that regardless of size, so many women feel self-conscious about like just wearing anything, let alone a bikini. So the fact that like they all decided to challenge themselves in that segment, and that for many of you, actually, not just you, it was like the most favorite part of the pageant. I'm like, yes, that is exactly what I want. That is why it's music to my ears. And talking about like as all of our audience could probably gather by now, you, Victoria Lee, are very like objective. Not only objective, but you also like look at the details and you kind of see like trends and trajectories. And that's something that you really focused on during your initial draft of your in-person interview with the judges. So can you tell us about how you took or why you took an approach like that, and then how you ended up shaping it into something else?
Definitely. So before I did the pageant, I guess context to people listening in is, so that was 2022. So going back to 2020, I actually was trying to go on like a healthy like weight loss, etc. journey. And I did end up losing almost 30 pounds, but definitely wasn't sustainable in that way of I was waking up early every morning. I was being very mindful or maybe even restricting what I was eating. And during that time period, I did track my weight. And for me, it was helpful just to see the numbers. And I think that kind of encouraged me to keep like going through that lifestyle. But because I had all those numbers, I thought it would be helpful to show like my ups and downs in the numbers. And for me, I come from a business background in strategy consulting and using data and analytics. So I came about the presentation in a very like analytical, logical numbers way of trying to I was trying to paint a story with a graph, but still it came out very analytical. But what I realized is to be able to capture people's attention, it's really about telling a story and pulling on their heartstrings. Essentially, that's what got me interested in thick dumpling skin, because I really felt pulled by their story. And so through Victoria's guidance and helping me to really think what is at the core of the story, I was able to change the story and talk more about my own personal experience from when I was in that phase of losing a lot of weight in 2020, then gaining the weight in 2021. And even when I lost the weight, I didn't feel that confident. But in 2022, I gained weight even throughout the pageant, but I ended up actually feeling more and more confident and having more self-love for myself. And that was a really important story for me to tell the judges, because my title was through thick and thin, to still love my body, loving my body through thick and thin. And I really believe that self-love is about unconditional love for yourself because we have our entire life. Our bodies are going to change. You might gain weight, you might lose weight, life just happens, etc. And making sure, yeah, you have a strong self-love to weather all of those changes, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, and fast forward a bit or quite a bit to when you handed off your title. I remember vividly standing there, and it was by the way, I threw all of the her court into the like this last minute request of like just buy time for me please. And so Victoria went on stage and asked the crowd like or something to the effect of, have any of you ever felt like insecure about your body or self-conscious about your body? And almost everyone stood up. That was a wild moment for me. Can you tell me about how that felt?
Well, first of all, I was really nervous because we had to buy time, and I was like, I don't know what to say. I think that was more on my mind. But yeah, that moment of like having everyone stand up, because I think it was just having that visual representation of like everyone literally getting up from that seats. It shows that body positivity can belong to all people. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be like, women either. And I think for me, I want to talk about body positivity also from an Asian American perspective because I don't think it's talked to much often like that. I think a lot of especially because we're in the US, I think a lot of the voices in body positivity is white women. And I wanted to make sure that people who, it's almost like my younger self who said that she didn't feel like there were people who looked like her talking about these type of topics. I want to be that person someone who maybe looks like me, whether they literally look like me or they resonate with my own personal background, that they feel represented also in the space of body positivity. So just see everyone get up, it was like, oh wow, like, this is why we need more voices in body positivity.
Yes, yes, I could not put it better that it's body positivity is for everyone, and to think more about like the way that you've kind of approached your platform, it's really evolved over time. It initially started as Victoriously Vulnerable, and then now you've switched into Mid-Size Asian Queen. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that started and how that transition happened?
So during the pageant, we all have a community service project, a community action plan. And for me, I was trying to think of, I really think it's important to share your story. And at that time, I had dabbled in podcasting before when I was interviewing alumni from my high school. So I thought, oh, why don't I have a podcast to talk about that? But then I realized that, body positivity is for everyone, but also I think a lot of people have insecurities, not only about their bodies, but, just other things that they have insecurities about. And there's a lot of importance of being vulnerable because on social media or even in the pageant, like, this is us putting all of our practice and work and this is what we look like. But there's other things behind the surface. And so I wanted a place where people can be vulnerable and share their thoughts and help other people know that they're not alone. So that's how Victoriously Vulnerable started. But for me, how that transitioned to Mid-Size Asian Queen was two things. One was I realized still at the core for me, it's still body positivity is what interests me and what drives me. And then two was podcasts take a lot of work and it was a little bit unsustainable. And so I had to think back to what was it that drives me. And I really do like making videos, making reels on Instagram. It really helps me to reach more people. And I like being able to tell that visual story and not just an audio story on podcast. And then for the body positivity part, that at the beginning is what started this whole journey. So I wanted to say, instead of me waiting for someone who looked like me, like, why can't I be that person? And so I'm just really fortunate that we live in an age where we can create our own platform. And so that's how Mid-Size Asian Queen happened. But it took a lot of iteration before I even got to that name, before I figured out my style and where I am today online as Mid-Size Asian Queen.
And that's so awesome though that you figured out, you really went deep into your roots and figured out what really mattered to you, what resonated with you the most, and then did a whole bunch of pivoting and testing of like different styles. And you're still, I know, from to this day, you're still trying out new styles. I mean, you semi recently posted what you considered your most unhinged post when you like made this googly eye like chip
Oh my God.
angle. It was really funny. I think everyone should check it out. But aside from all of your amazing content, and so but at the same time, with all of this content that you're putting out there, it comes with a lot of backlash, and which that backlash actually kind of makes it even more important that you're doing this work. But how do you manage the contents that you content the comments and the DMs that you receive that are really trying to tear you down? And I'll give an example of one recent one, where they said fat people don't need to be represented, thanks. You
Mm-hmm.
and this is like for every single post, like, and
Yeah.
varying types of comments. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. I guess the easy answer is I ignore it. But the longer, more elaborate answer is when my videos did start getting traction, I think I did pay attention to it. Like I would read it, but I also just recognize that they're just people who are strangers online who can't understand why someone who looks like me is happy. Because in their mind, they think someone who looks like me should be unhappy, that they should hate their body into submission to fit whatever it is that is socially acceptable. And that's been really helpful for me to understand that. But also what's also been helpful is that the amount of support I've been getting, both like from my friends who also call out these hate comments. Like in the beginning, they were like commenting back at the people, but also just online people. Because I've been floored that it was January of this year, 2024, that I went from about 2,000 followers to 20,000 followers. Like I was just like, what the heck? Like I guess for me, what's helpful is that I know I'm doing something right if it's starting up controversy, because there aren't enough people who look like me online. And so when people start seeing that, A, they're either going to be like, oh my God, that's amazing, I feel represented. Or B, they're like, this isn't the normal thing that we see. Like, this is unacceptable. And those are the people who cannot understand that we need representation. There are people out there who don't look like them, who don't agree with what they say. And so, you know what? Let the haters comment and view it. I don't know, they're just helping my engagement. So, sometimes I respond to a hate comment with like, hey, thanks for the comment, peace sign.
I love it. I love it. I've also saw some of your responses that were pretty witty, like utilizing their username as kind of like a way to respond to
Oh,
that
yeah.
too. I love that so much. And when you bring up a really good point, which is like, even aside from just body positivity as content, the social media is so polarizing. Like you said, there's either people who feel really, really strongly about like resonating with your story and then comments like that, but then there's also those that are really hateful comments. And like you mentioned before, body positivity is really for everyone. And I truly feel like I've resonated with your content as well. And I think others too, like regardless of their background, do as well. How are you trying to like continue on with your content in a way that reaches all?
Hmm. So for me, my goal is I try to post one reel a day is my goal. And that has allowed me to be more creative with my posts, because it's not like I put so much energy into one post that I'm like, oh my God, I hope it does really well. And so like, some of them are like, that unhinged one. I was like, I don't have a post today, but I've seen these funny hamster ones, so why not? I'll make it. Um, and then today I posted, I want to do more of these, like behind the scenes of a photo shoot, like come with me as a petite mid-sized model to a photo shoot. Others are like try on these outfits for me, or try on like these different fashion styles. But to your question of like showing body positivity to all, that's something I'm wrestling with, because I do understand that it's also helpful to have a niche. And because like there are so many people with different accounts who have different messages or different versions of body positivity. And I really want to promote my version of body positivity as someone who's Asian American woman, who is petite, who is mid-size, who's also now 30 as well on Instagram. And so while I recognize that maybe not everyone might feel resonate with me just because they're looking for someone who looks like them, that's fine. Like, I think there is a large enough community out there of Asian women or people who are like me, 5'2" and 180 pounds, that don't feel represented. And when they see my content, hopefully they feel resonated and want to follow along for all my content, whether it's like fashion try-ons or, I don't know, funny little videos of me with a little hamster bow on my head.
I love that. I love that you recognize, like, you have an abundance mindset. You recognize this community is full of amazing people like yourself, and that you also want to really like lean into what you are most passionate about and your personal community. So talking about that, like, I constantly you are having to correct people what is the difference between what is petite and what is mid-size. And I know you've had to do it over and over again, but for our audience, can you clarify again for everyone?
So petite means height, so short. So as someone who is 5'2", 157 centimeters, I am short. And then and one more point on petite, it doesn't mean you have to be thin or slender, etc. It's purely height. So you could be thin and petite. You could also be like me, mid-size and petite. If you walk into a clothing store into petite section, there's going to be smalls, mediums, large, etc. Like you could be petite in terms of height, but you could be wearing different sizes as a petite person.
Okay.
And as for mid-size, it's in terms of fashion sizing. So if you go to clothing stores, there's going to be, straight size, mid-size, plus size. So mid-size is between the straight size and plus size. And if you put that in terms of US size numbers, it's about maybe like a size 12 to a 16-ish around there. And for me, as someone, I wear about a size 12 to 14. So I definitely fall into the mid-size category. And I want to bring more awareness to mid-size because I don't think a lot of people are aware that exists. Quite frankly, from all my comments of like, what is mid-size? You don't wear a medium, or like you're a mid-size car. And I'm like, oh, ha, 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 so creative. Like so many people have said that. But for me, when I would see models, they would be the really thin models that you would think about. But then you'd also see plus size models. But I didn't feel like I resonated with plus size models as well. Like a lot of them, like I don't wear plus size. So I think that was like a big reason. So that's why I want to make sure that people know what mid-size is, because I think a lot of women are mid-size, but they don't recognize that, or they're not aware of that. And I want to be the person to help them feel resonated and represented.
I love that. And I think it also translates into something else I wanted to bring up that you've brought up a few times actually, is that you model now. You model both for print and for runway. Can you tell us about like your experience doing that?
Of course, well, it's because of the pageant, the photo shoots that you held, that they were really fun. I was like, oh, I want to do more of this. And I've been so pleasantly surprised in Chicago that the modeling community is very tight knit and inclusive. And it just so happens there's a group here that promotes petite modeling as well. And they're called Why Not Petite. And for them, they recognize also, petite is just height. So I feel really welcome there as someone who is a mid-sized petite. And it's been great to work with photographers, to be in fashion shows. And yeah, I hope that people, whether when they see the photos or are in the audience of the fashion show, that they're like, oh, this person's like not what I think is like a model typically, because we're fed the image that models are super tall and thin. And that I'm really happy that I get to be there, because for me, whenever I saw people that maybe they looked similar to my body shape, maybe they were also East Asian, I would be like, oh my God, that's so cool to see them. And I really hope I can be like that for other people.
I love that. And you also mentioned too that like you've been creating more content where you will talk, like you'll try on clothes, you'll do try on hauls for people, or maybe not full haul, but like you'll go on a trip and you're like, I'm preparing for this trip. What inspired you to kind of create that type of content?
So it's content that I would think is helpful. When I see outfits online, they are on a model that people, stereotypically think is a model, someone who's really tall and thin. And I'm like, that outfit is not going to look like that on me. And so I really wanted to show people like, hey, this is what these type of outfits can look like if you have a body type similar to me. And it was also just fun. I was like, hey, if I'm going to go shopping anyways, I might as well, film it and get also people's thoughts about what they think. And so it was a fun way for me to make content, but also just to add to the representation. I'm also trying to start a series. I'm not quite sure what the wording is, but essentially I want to fill the internet up with more petite, mid-sized bodies as well. And so by having people see what I'm wearing, and I've actually had people ask me, like, oh, what's the link to that clothing piece? Because I want to get it because I have a similar body type. It's been really great to see that what I've been trying on, what I'm wearing is helpful for them to determine what they should buy, because it's hard to shop with our body sizes.
I And I think it's so important too that you're thinking about not only like creating content of yourself, but also including others as well in this process. And I mean that's a huge component of our nonprofit is amplifying the voices of other women and other people. Which, by the way, shout out, Victoria is actually our new Chicago Asian Women Empowerment Main Board Chair. She's already been doing amazing work and getting our name out there every single day. I mean, she's recruited so many people to be part of our pageant and to be involved with our nonprofit. So, yes, I just wanted to throw that out there really quick. And also, I wanted to go back to influencing because at the beginning, you were kind of like, I guess I'm an influencer. And I'm like, you are. And you mentioned just in casual a casual line that you're like up to 20, like not up to, you're past 20,000 followers. How did you get blown up like that? What happened?
What happened was I was aiming to post one reel a day, and it just so happened in January, two of those blew up, and they were actually very similar styles. It's maybe you've seen these videos. It's like, I'm a insert identity, and then you say something that relates to identity. So for me, it's like, um, I'm a fat Asian. Of course, when I go to Asia, they always tell me that I got fatter, or like I'm a fat Asian. If I go to Asia, like the clothing size, I'm like a 3XL there, for example. And I think by making those statements, actually a lot of people resonated with me. Even the statement of like, oh, I'm a fat Asian. Of course I got wrapped in plastic wrap to lose weight. Like people actually said that they got plastic wrapped also.
Wow.
And people who weren't even Asian said like, oh, they did this like for us also. And so those two videos were the ones that reached, I think one now has about 9 million views. The
Wow.
other one maybe has 5 million views. And they wrapped up a lot of followers that found me because it gave me this reach. And that's how I went from the 2000, and in that 1 month I was like watching my follower count grow. I was like, oh my god, is this real? And that's how it went over the 20K. And since then it's still growing, but at a more gradual pace, not at that crazy pace that was going on in January. And so that's when I guess I started taking, I was like, wow, people are interested in what I have to say, that my thoughts about body positivity, about my thoughts about my body, people actually want to hear this. Because I want to bring this back to when I did the pageant, when I was talking with you, Victoria, about what my community action plan should be. I was like, hey, there's this body positivity thing, but I think this could be, maybe people are more interested in my work with employee resource groups at work. And you're the one who said, it sounds like you're way more interested on the body positivity side, because even I was discounting the extent people will be interested in it, because for so long I told myself that I couldn't do that. And so it was actually, as I believe in self-love and having your own confidence, but it was actually also really helpful and validating to see so many people were also interested in what I have to say.
And I know not only in the comments, but you get a whole bunch of DMs too from people who are sharing, like pouring out to you how much it's really resonated with them. Can you share with us one of like ones that really, really stood out to you, or that you just remember off the top of your head?
Yeah, the ones that really resonated with me is like ones I felt like an older, like a prior version of me talking, of saying, to the extent it's like, oh, I've not seen someone with my body size or my body type, or someone like literally people who are like, I literally have your same measurements, and I've never felt this like represented. And to see me, like they say, like it really helps that to see me being so confident, it helps to show that they can be confident. Or if like I'm wearing this certain outfit, that they can also wear this outfit as well. Like those are the ones that really resonate with me, because it's almost like I'm seeing an older version of me. And I literally did see the older version of me when I got that video of 20-year-old me talking to, 30-year-old me, because that person was wanting to see someone who looks like her and who was confident. So those are the ones that really resonate with me. But I've also got other comments of people saying like they might not be my body type, but like they love the confidence and the positive messages that I'm sharing.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I want to go back to that message from 20-year-old to 30-year-old. Now, do you want to leave a message, or I'm just going to ask you to, please leave a message for 40-year-old Victoria Lee.
Uh, I've been thinking about that. I want to record a video like that. I want to say something to her. Uh, I mean, right now off the top of my head, it's just like, I hope that you still continue being body positive, because I think when I enter my 40s, I'm going to start dealing with things about my body that I never had to deal with in the past. Maybe I would have had a child or children, so there's dealing with pregnancy and post-pregnancy body. I've never dealt with anything like that, my body changed like that. I'm also going to be aging more. I think I could still pass as someone, I don't know, barely in her early 20s. So it's like I haven't felt like the presence of like aging. And so I don't really know quite how I would deal with that. So I really hope that when I'm turning 40, that I've learned how to, grow with, my body aging, whether I had a child, my body changing to that extent, and still feeling body positive, and still being able to take the community that I built online through this as I've grown up as well. I think that is something that if I want to continue on the message of body positivity, those are going to be new challenges I'll deal with, and I hope I get through them as strongly as I did during my 20s also.
Of course, as forward thinking as you are always, you're even thinking about how you're gonna build your platform with you as you age, and that's actually like a whole nother topic we could talk about another time. Of like aging on social media has become like something of like interest and importance too, as millennials like ourselves are getting older. And so now I want to shift back for a second and talk about you know the pageant again. So, given all that you've accomplished and done with your platform and your own personal journey since handing off your title for Miss Chinese Chicago, now Miss Asian Chicago, looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I wish I recorded more of the process, and I know you told me to do this. I have some video clips. I guess I wish I was more brave to post stuff online and start earlier versus now. But I also recognize that's fine that I didn't, because maybe I needed to go through that journey more privately before I can more publicly talk about it. Because I think back then, if I were to get the hate comments I did do now, I don't know how I would have handled it, to be honest. I think I would have been a lot more bothered by it and more concerned about them. And so I think I wish I did record things. Maybe I didn't have to post it, but I wish I recorded a bit more. I do have video clips of some aspects of what happened. But I think I'm happy with how I approached the pageant. For me, the goal was to feel more confident and to feel more body positive and to share my message. I was like, sure, if I win a title, that'd be cool. And so the fact that I won 2 titles, Miss Talent and Second Princess, I was like, oh my God, like I get to continue my work with the pageant and to have the title and to have also that validation as well, that my words and my thoughts about body positivity does matter.
Yes, yes, yes. And now, if you were to give advice to anyone who is interested in doing pageants and they resonate with your body positivity content, what would you tell them?
I tell them to do it. They should just do it. Because you're probably going to enter thinking like, why am I doing this? I'm a little scared by it, but the end product of who you will be at the end of the pageant, it's just going to be such a great transformation. I also think that this pageant, it's very different than other pageants. People are coached by you, Victoria. You are a fabulous, fabulous coach. You can really see into others what they may not see in themselves, the potential. Yeah, so I think it's actually a really great treat to be able to be coached by you, Victoria, and to also have the sisterhood of the other contestants. The pageant was, I think, what really kickstarted a lot of my transformation at the end of my 20s, which led to such a fun passing through to enter my 30s as well. So I really hope anyone who is eligible, who has the time, and I think not only has the time or is eligible, you need to have the will of what it is that you want to get out of the pageant. That if you have all of these marks of these criteria, that you should definitely apply and be a part of the pageant. I mean, every time I talk to someone, if I think they might be interested, I'll tell them about the pageant.
That's our main board chair right there. I love it. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. I'm feeling all the fuzzies. Okay, I'm gonna try to shift gears for a second. So, what is next? What is Victoria or maybe 3.0 or even 4.0 going to be looking like?
Uh, for me right now, it's trying to think about how I want to continue building out my content. Right now, I try to post one reel a day. So it's a lot of like the day before, trying to look at all my video clips and figure out a video out of it. I'd like to be a little bit more strategic about how I build my community. Because right now I've been posting a lot of reels, but I want to post things that also not only in terms of getting reach, but also more services of people already here. And so maybe that's posting more, static posts as well on Instagram. I think I also want to host more events. I'm not quite sure how to do that just because I'm not sure how many people I have in Chicago within my follower base. But even for the people who are in Chicago, I'm trying to think through what can I do for them. Also, it could be a virtual event, but I haven't really quite figured out how to do an engaging virtual event yet because while it's great to have people like my posts, they comment, etc., I want to build something more out of it. Kind of like what you've done, Victoria, with the pageant and all of your programming under Chicago Asian Women Empowerment. You're able to build this community. So I don't know what the answer is. I want to think about what else can I do beyond Instagram because Instagram is the foot in the door for the people to see my content and my message. But I want to make sure that they're also getting the full experience and how can I also help them become their more body positive self? It's one thing they just watch me. The next thing I want them is one for them is for them to actually also do it if that's something that they want to do.
Yeah, I mean what you just said leads me to my two other questions, which was first, you said that Instagram is the foot in the door for people to follow you and to get to know you. How is that the main way that people should contact you if they want to follow up on this?
Yeah, I am active on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's all mid-size Asian queen. Instagram is probably my primary platform just because that's where I have the most followers and I'm more active. So if people want to reach out to me, they can give me a follow and also send me a DM. I usually try my best to respond to all of them. And yeah, give me a follow there. But also, if you have ideas, like I just said, all the questions that I'm thinking about. How do I have an in-person event in Chicago? What would be engaging virtually? So if someone's listening and watching, and you have ideas, I am so welcome to ideas because at the end of the day, I want to make sure I'm servicing you as well.
I also, to all of you in the audience, I want to reiterate too that Victoria is not only very objective and very forward thinking, like when she says she's looking for feedback, she really is. Victoria is really great about giving constructive feedback and receiving it as well. So do take her offer on that. If you have any idea of like ways that you would find value in her platform, please reach out to her. And also the next question that I wanted to ask was, you talked about wanting your followers to take action and do something on top of, reading and watching your content. What would be one message you would send to all of your supporters or people who out there who might resonate with your story?
Hmm. I'd say it's be unapologetic and taking up space. And for me, I was told I was too big, I was too much of this, but we need to be unapologetic about who we are, take up the space that we deserve. And this kind of ties to my new series I'm trying to create of making posts where it's like, episode 4 of filling up the internet with petite mid-size bodies, for example. So whether taking up space means for you to just feel more confident in an outfit you're wearing, whether it means that you go out there and work with a photographer on a photo shoot, or it just means that you post your outfit of the day and just be like, hey, I'm doing my part in filling the internet up with petite mid-size bodies. So to be unapologetic and taking up space.
Love it. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. This was so awesome. So again, everyone, this is Victoria Lee. She was our Miss China Chicago 2022 second princess and talent, our current Chicago Asian Women Empowerment main board member. She is also a senior learning development manager, and also the operator of this amazing, amazing body positivity platform, Midsize Asian Queen. Check her out on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. All right, any final thoughts or anything you want to add, Victoria?
I'm serious about giving me feedback. So if you have ideas for events, that's been something I've been wrestling for a while and I haven't come up with an answer. And then secondly, yeah, just remember to unapologetically take up space because you deserve it. You deserve love. And we are here to stay.
Yes, yes. Well, there you have it, everyone. Bye.
Bye.